The morning sun arrived as it always did above eastern Oceanus Procellarum, quickly. Not a single star in the sky, just the crescent blue giant's fingernail of an old home hanging there. Always there, reminding him of why he left and begging him to return. Of what could be seen on the thin line of the visible planet were the small amounts of landmass, tiny amidst the dark blue bulk of the swollen sea, an ocean that covered everything for the most part, albeit for the occasional light of activity coming out of the occasional great Civitas city-state that spun by. In a 200-year period, the seas had risen gradually. Every 10 years, another 10 meters in the north, 10.5 in the south. There was never a panic, more a slow migration to the inland areas. Slowly the face of the earth changed, and humans adapted. A new civilization was born from within the shadows. The UN was no more, and the Civitas idea, under the banner of the League of Patriots, much like the new swollen sea, reigned supreme. All of the old nations dissolved, city-states arose, yet one nation did remain, independent from the earth but vital to everything the Civitas idea needed to fuel its success. That nation and the earth had rotated together in an ancient lullaby featuring creatures lost to dust and hundreds of civilizations. Two bodies, now with only one true nation between them. Vince's nation. The Moon.
We never truly invent, we just progress.
Vince's foreman, Patrick, was the sort of boss who wished he was still out there in the dark. His energy reserves remained even though the strength in his body didn't, except for maybe the muscles surrounding his mouth.
Upgrading and transhuman debacle. I don't know what's going on with all of that. It's crazy,
Vince
really.
would
What
nod,
we wanted to
especially
do
if it meant a few
is
moments away from the
interface
dark,
to
away from the CCE. A rest is a rest is a rest, they would say. Like all lunar miners and the inhabitants, Vince was a pure human. No transhuman over 5% would be able to survive anywhere above 200 miles from the Earth's surface, largely due to the gravity interacting with the ion vials semi-injected into the flesh for most League Patriot-approved upgrades. As for the synthetics working off-world, the old Roko's basilisk law held firm, stating that should the robots of Earth wish to work in space or on the moon, then they must do so out of their own free will. There were some synthetics on the moon, but the nation preferred to have a pure human workforce and a population of humankind that preserved the cultures of yesteryear. The politicians of the moon were all second-generation exiles, grandchildren of those who fled the Civitas idea, fled the amortality obsession wave, the Draconic Brotherhood doctrine, and of course the planet's obsession with microdosing glee. Talon, Wilfred Talon, had wanted to flood the moon with off-world forced labour, but the nation refused. Their government was small, but it didn't matter how many ether suitcases were passed under the table, the politicians of the nation were clean. A last bastion of human democratic values and a quasi-socialist state of fair labour under the protection of an infinite contract with the only client in the entire solar system. The moon was safe, and the moon was pure. Vince had arrived 10 years ago. He was an outer insider wanderer, born to a family of tech hunters, moving from commune to commune and avoiding the skyscraper jungles of Nihilium and the ultra-consumerist pull of the Civitas idea. As he became a man, the social aspect, the rhythm, and the strive for culture from the nation spoke to him. He had no ether to contribute to any CRC over any one of the great Civitas, and the idea of him being a forced labour standard patriot appealed to him like a hole in the head. The need for moon extractors had forced the government of the moon to issue free travel warrants to anyone from outer Insidon, fit and healthy enough to join their workforce. So, on his 22nd birthday, Vince packed his bags, linked up an ether wallet to send 33.333% of his monthly take back to his family, kissed his mother, embraced his father, got onto a passenger ion ship, and left for the nation. New Civitas projects entering the League meant that more ion was needed on the Earth's surface to drive the massive push for infrastructure and city building. The nation's contract with Talon Corp was altered to increase ion production by a huge 600%. Wilfred Talon, Taloncorp and Civitas Nihilium held the monopoly of ion production. Upon arrival, Vince was immediately stationed at 7645 Gamma. The moon needed Vince to mine, so on his first day he trained, on the second day he trained, on the third day he trained some more, and then on the fourth, he extracted. And it has been that way for a decade since. The dense, rare earth materials that the contract desired had to be extracted from the hard rock underlayer below the silky dust of the moon's surface. Punctured holes in a grid-like fashion, measured and evenly spread, was the method. It gave the moon's surface the resemblance of an air hockey table from above, but underground it gave the miners interconnecting cracks from puncture to puncture, perfect for the large CCE machines to crack, compress and extract the moon rock underneath. The crew hall of Lunar CCE 7645 Gamma was one of the smallest. I have 2 more passes. What's on the hob tonight? Garlic once Sasha gets back. I'll start the bread. You've done well in this phase, Vince. I'd say you can take it easy. Those 2 passes can be pushed over to the next phase. Sasha always brings home. A radio in the corner of the kitchen where Patrick, the foreman of station 7645, stood, bleeped and crackled. Well, that'll be her now. Go ahead. 3 batches sent to fuse. I'm done here, boss. Okay, Sasha. Supper on the hob, but you take your time. Vince smiled to himself as his stomach rumbled. The differences between Earth and the Moon, between Civitas city-state life and life in the nation, were as like night and day. The people of the nation did everything slowly, but with that slow pace came room for traditional approaches. Vince shaved with a cutthroat, washed with a bar of soap, straightened his hammock head every morning with a comb, and took the lunar taxi for 4 hours to the city every phase 8 just to sip moon vermouth and dance with his work colleague. He and Sasha were getting pretty good at the Charleston. The crew door opened, and the sound of magnetic boots engaging with a reinforced metal grate echoed around the crew chamber. Sasha took off her helmet. "Ah, you're back before me, huh? You're more moon than I am." It bothered Vince that he always felt compelled to look at her. He regretted every time he did, largely because Sasha never spoke to him about anything other than leaving the nation. And Vince could think of nothing other than Sasha staying. He'd been in love with her since they shared a cocktail under the sky of the last full Earth, and he knew she had absolutely no desire to shack up with him and build a family on the moon. All that Sasha wanted was Civitas Tau. Patrick shouted out from the kitchen, "The bread is going in! Scram will commence in T-minus 15 minutes!" Sasha crashed down onto the bench in front of Vince and glared at him. "What are you doing sitting down, Astrohead? You need to be practicing for our next trip to Lunar City." Vince shuddered at the thought of a near-focal cortex destroying those beautiful, bright green eyes. "What's the matter?" "I've been thinking about what you said regarding your deportation. Are you sure you want the transhuman route? I mean, isn't it more dignified to be burnt or buried with your whole body intact?" "Vince, it isn't deportation if it's voluntary. I'm emigrating. I've had an amazing offer from the CRC of Civitas Tau, and I can't turn it down." "Sure, but why transhumanism? That is so different to what you know." Sasha stands up and heads over to the lockers a few feet towards the back of the chamber, shaking her head in disagreement. "I've just got in, Vince. Give me a few seconds to align, okay?" Vince felt cold. Sasha had announced previously that a Civitas Tau roadshow had caught her off-world in a lunar descent city a phase or 2 back, and she had been dreaming of getting off the moon ever since she was a little girl. "I just want to see the surface with my own eyes." "But why Tau? I believe in him, Vince. FM 2030 is a visionary. As I'm getting older, I don't want things to break. I want to be improved, upgraded, and live in a Taylor capsule of my own design, and work on whatever it is that they want me for." This was the first problem, thought Vince. Sasha didn't know why they wanted her, and it drove Vince to anxiety why she didn't even care. "Here we go." Patrick slammed down 2 bowls of garlic soup with a bowl of heavy-looking bread. Vince grabbed a spoon from the middle of the table and shoveled it in. Sasha did the same. only slower with more finesse. Sasha had been born in Lunar City in the same year Wilfred Talon, the then president of Earth's leading Civitas city-state, Civitas Nihilium, had volunteered to go into semi-cryogenic suspension. She had watched from 235,000 miles away a political shift of power between Civitas Nihilium and the second oldest Civitas in the League, the transhuman utopia of Civitas Tau, with wonder and excitement. What started as a red dot 6,000 kilometers across the swollen sea from the gigantic teal-glowing megacity of Nihilium gradually grew into a modest and ambitious-looking hub of ion activity. Ion transit after ion transit would be bound for Civitas Tau. The city-state's reputation was flourishing. Everybody was talking about Tau. Sasha dreamt of it. She could see herself as a metropolitan transhuman, walking the streets, having dinner with her friends, and living for hundreds of years. The moon couldn't offer anything for her. At 37 years of age, she had to leave. This was her only chance. That night, Vince lay in his hammock, unstrapped as he enjoyed the soft cushion of air the weak gravity would provide, as he allowed his mind to race. What would get her to stay? How could he tell her the truth about his feelings? Would she just laugh? How could any man compete against amortality? She wanted consumerism. She wanted to fit upgrades into her body, and she wanted to destroy everything that was moon about her. He hated Sasha for wanting that. He really hated her for wanting anything apart from him. Vince looked across the upper deck of the chamber and could see a light red glow coming out from the hatch where Sasha's hammock was. Sasha lay there, daydreaming, browsing on her chatbot digiglass, images of Tau and upgrades. He closed his eyes and imagined the children he and Sasha would have. Their clothes, how they would smell, their smiles. Vince felt sick. He knew that for at least the fourth phase in a row, he was going to have yet another sleepless night. Above him, a reinforced skylight displayed the blackness of space. Oblivion, he said out loud. Zipping past extractor chamber after extractor chamber, the lunar taxi moved silently towards Lunar City. Dressed in traditional outfits, Vince and Sasha sat side by side, Vince staring at the chambers while Sasha searched her mind for something to break the uncomfortable silence with. "We don't have to stay for the vermouths this time. We can head straight back if you wanted." Vince felt heavy. Too heavy to talk. Sasha's departure for Tau was only 2 phases away, and Vince couldn't bear the thought of existence without her. He glared with a dark stare out into the white, colourless desert of the moon's surface. "Why come with me, Vince? For Etor's sake, what's your problem?" Sasha gently bumps into Vince with her bare shoulder. The skirt section of her red tasseled dress spreads slightly over Vince's left leg. He looks down and notices her pale white knee, under the white lace of her protruding petticoat. At the Lunar City dance hall, Vince's legs were twisting and bending in time with the music. Next to him, Sasha did the same, stood shoulder to shoulder. The Charleston is the perfect dance for friendship-based couples, fun, energetic, and mostly side by side. Vince wished they had learnt the tango. After a successful round on the floor, Vince and Sasha would meet with the other dance couples and chat usually about extraction chamber petty politics between 4 men and 4 women, the latest news coming out of the Earth, and plans for the phases ahead. What frustrated Vince the most was the fact that each and every couple had ended up becoming involved, but not him and Sasha, and this too angered Vince. Vince went into the second practice round with a thin layer of aggression that Sasha felt. "Ow! Why'd you grab me so hard?" I didn't. "Vince, what's going on with you?" "I need to break here." "Is everything okay?" The 4-hour journey back felt like a lifetime for both of them. Normally filled with laughter and playful banter, the lunar taxi was cold. Vince just sat there, staring out onto the moon's surface. That evening, they both walked towards their respective hatches. Vincent turned to say goodnight to Sasha, only to see her hatch slam closed. Vincent's heart was breaking. The next morning at breakfast, Patrick sat down in front of Vince, placing an arm onto his shoulder.
You don't know, do you, son?
Patrick had a black eye and a cut lip.
What happened to you? I forgot to strap in and must have hit my bunk and bulkhead with my face.
Patrick looked up the 4 internal floors towards Sasha's chamber.
She's gone, Vincent. Left me a note this morning saying that she's taken the first shuttle to Lunar Descent City and then the next rocket to Tau. She's out of our lives, old friend. I'm sorry. I know how you felt about her.
That afternoon, Vince spent a little longer than normal out in the dark. 6 back-to-back extractions and a lot of rock for the fuse reactors. As he made his way back to the chamber, he paused at one of the drill holes running deep into the moon's surface. He stared deeply into the dark hole, examined the room of the entry point, running his gloved fingers through the small particles of moon dust. He peered back over towards the line of chambers, maybe 12 or 13 in total. On the edge of the viewpoint, he spotted a Pavlik's roaming patrol, a red siren emitting a circled wash of cherry light across the pale grey dunes of the surroundings. Nation officials. They passed the first 4 chambers. It was heading for his. Patrick spotted Vince approaching from the south and sent a radio message out to Vince to join the rest of the extractors coming in from the other chambers, ordering him to head into the rest of the extractor traffic and come round the back of the chamber.
Is everything okay? Just do it. I'll meet you out the back.
Vince's head started to spin. Why were they there? Were they there for him? Nation officials never brought good news. At the back of the chamber, Vince was packing up his extractor machinery and mobile suit when Patrick came in from the back. His energy was a 50-50 share between care and panic.
They want to talk to you about Sasha.
Why? What's happened?
They aren't saying, but come back through the front when you're done unpacking here. Just tell them everything you know, okay?
Okay. At the front of the chamber, a female nation official was stood in official uniform waiting for Vince to come in through the front hatch. As the hatch closed behind him, Vince was greeted at the front of the chamber by the purple-haired woman.
Good to see you, Vincent. I'm here as I would like to ask you some questions about your co-worker. Are you happier sitting down?
I'm okay standing. But what is this? The nation official presses an app on her digi-chatbot glass.
Sasha Silva was a co-worker of yours and a friend, correct?
Well, we were sort of friends.
You would meet up regularly, and your city pass suggests that you both attended regular 8th phase jaunts into Lunar City. We would consider that you were more than just co-workers.
What's happened to her?
Last night, where did she say she was going? Your foreman here tells me that you had an argument of sorts. What was it, Vince? What did Sasha tell you?
She didn't say much. Vince darts a look at Patrick. We weren't talking when we got back.
If she contacts you at any point, perhaps do her the favour of saying that we've been trying to locate her, okay?
Vince nods. Patrick slams the kitchen door as the nation officer leaves. The rest of the day, Patrick spent it ignoring Vince, and Vince didn't know why. At supper, Vince had to say something. What's the matter, Patrick?
Why didn't you tell the nation officer the truth?
What do you mean?
That you had an argument with her in the night she left.
Vince is shocked by Patrick's reply. Because we didn't?
You did? I heard you both. Look, I'm not sure why she's left us, but I'll be frustrated if I knew it was you and your silly little crush on her that has pushed her away from here.
The next phase, Vince woke up again to a busy chamber. The nation official was back, only this time she had someone with her, and by his fashion choices, he was clearly a patriot of Civitas Nihilium.
Vince, this is Marcus Cantor. Marcus and I have been trying to get to the bottom of an extremely alarming problem that consists of extractors leaving the nation for Civitas Tau, and we would like to know why your colleague, your friend, left for Civitas Tau in the first place.
The Nihilium official butts in.
Did she ever say to you what they were offering her? Perhaps she had mentioned the role that she had been allocated prior to her departure from here.
Vince explained that Sasha had never known herself what Tau was actually offering in terms of job specifications. He told the officials exactly how shocked he was that she would leave without even knowing such a vital detail. The officials thanked Vincent, and left. The next phase, Vincent awoke full of regret. He should have gone with her. Maybe then she'd be... Why did he not tell her his feelings? Vincent had previously thought that he couldn't have loved Sasha any more than that night they sat silent in the lunar taxi, on the way back to the chamber. But now, in her absence, he felt a longing for her. A dark, numb longing. Vincent was now grieving for Sasha. He came down to the ground level of the chamber to find that Patrick wasn't there. After looking all over the chamber, Vincent concluded that Patrick was either outside on the surface, or maybe he had left early for a conference in the city. Those would happen from time to time, and Vince was always surprised when they came back around. It felt these days that phases were getting shorter and shorter. Looking down onto one of the benches of the main table outside the kitchen, a small device catches Vincent's eye. It's a QST-MP, a quantum short-term memory processor, just sat there on the bench, as if it had fallen out of someone's pocket. Patrick's? Vincent picked it up, the number 4 displayed on its tiny LCD panel. What did that mean? Immediately slicing through the confusion, 3 ion transits complete with interplanetary thrusters descended out of the moon's sky, landing extremely close to Vince and the rest of the row of chambers. Simultaneously, the hatches opened, and over 20 attack drones came hovering at speed out of the hatches and towards the entrances of each of the extraction chambers. Vince threw down the QST-MP and grabbed a nearby crowbar that was used for maintenance on his mobile suit, and stared down the silver and black drone as it approached his chamber. Patrick's radio in the kitchen squealed. "Put down your weapons. This is a peaceful envoy. Please allow the drones access into your airlocks. This is a message from FM 2030 of Civitas Tau, requesting a party with the leader of your chamber." The idea of opening his chamber's airlock to a Civitas Tau attack drone seemed foolish to say the least. But Vince wasn't of sound mind. Part of him felt that maybe this was a message from Sasha. Perhaps Sasha was going to beg for Vince to come to Tau. Perhaps she'd arranged some elaborate plan to get her lover to join her in her transhuman utopia. The airlock opened and the drone entered, hovering silently and spinning to face Vince through the porthole. A speaker engaged on the drone and the infamous voice of the transhuman leader, FM 2030, echoed all around.
Extractor, I am FM 2030, the leader of Civitas Tau. In the last few days, or phases as you moon folk prefer, we have unlocked the secrets of planetary fusement of expended ion charges here on Earth. We are finally ion independent, and we request that you now consider working for us, here at Civitas Tau.
Vince was shocked. Ion independence? But the entire Civitas idea rested on the monopoly of ion coming out of Civitas Nihilium, via their eternal contract with the nation. Surely, Vince thought with dread, this meant war. The broadcast continued.
Extractors and their command, we wish for you to continue the good job you've done for the many years, and we shall be negotiating new terms with your government and hope that this will give each and every one of you a better life here. Also, should any extractors or command wish to repatriate to Civitas Tau, we are looking for Tau-based extractors to lead the way in building, training, and researching our entirely new ion-independent infrastructure, working at our rockwash stations or at our diffuse dumps. If that's something you want, you may leave on one of these ion transits immediately.
Sasha. That must have been why Sasha left for Tau. She's there right now in Civitas Tau, working for their ion independence. Risking war on Earth was not enough to stop Vince. He peered out of the porthole of the ion transit as its thrusters engaged. Vincent was going back to Earth to marry Sasha. He saw his children's faces again, their beautiful faces. The future was good, regardless of what was coming politically, he thought. Tau would protect their ion output over everything else. They would be sacred. His and Sasha's future family would be safe in Civitas Tau. As the transit's rockets maneuvered to begin its voyage to Earth, Vincent took one last look at the moon's dusty white industrial surface. He closed his eyes, and there he could see her again.
I'm coming for you, Sasha. We are going to be together.
Patrick arrived back to find Vince had gone. On the table of the chamber, emitting a small red light, the QSTMP flashed. Patrick pressed it with his thumb, and the bleeping stopped.
Well, it looks like he's left us.
Patrick reaches into his bag and pulls out a freshly fused ion charge, teal in colour, with unusual dark red, pink and black speckles within it. Patrick places it onto the table with a thud and pats it with his hand.
My sweet, sweet Sasha.